the latest rumor that seems like it actually has maybe some truth to it, maybe, is the Miami Dolphins. I don't know. Is that even true? Is that just like some shit that's been thrown out there by somebody for a different motivation? I don't know. But Deshaun Watson, it, supposedly the Miami front office is very interested in Deshaun Watson,
And
which would
they,
me.
sorry,
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I remember them being interested from day one. Like when the Deshaun Watson wanting a trade and the Russell Wilson wanting a trade thing were happening around the same time. Like Miami wanted that then. I don't know what that might mean now, but they've been interested.
Yeah, I think what's weird about I mean Deshaun Watson. What do you think he? I'd have to have the quarterbacks in front of me, but like top six. Is he top six quarterback in the league? He's very good. He's proven to be very
For
good.
well, I guess it's probably pretty close to the same for me anyway, but I hesitated because I was wondering if you meant like for fantasy or for standing football
Real
standings.
football, just real football stance.
Dude's a gamer, man. Like probably top 4 or 5 for me for that because he is willing
Yeah,
to get out into space, make some plays. Like I think he wants to
one of the
win.
he's what your team, your franchise hopes to get in a draft, right? Like you want a quarterback who's very like as good as a Deshaun Watson is. You'd be very happy with that. So of course I would understand why almost every team in the league would want Deshaun Watson on their team. It's just a little weird because you have all these accusations and we do not know how this is going to play out. He could at any moment be in legal trouble, get suspended, put on the exempt list, and the Texans are asking the house for him. So you're gonna give up a lot of draft capital just to get him to take that risk. Then on top of that, the Miami situation, you have a quarterback you just drafted, and there was a lot of different things that Tua had to overcome last year. Not just a COVID season with no training camp and such, but also that very serious injury he had, which was the reason why he slipped in drafts in the first place. And now you have this season and preseason where it's preseason, so of course you're taking everything with a grain of salt. But he was out there with the ones, and he was going against other teams' ones in preseason for those few drives they would have here and there. And he looked night and day different to me. He looked so much better to me. And you bring Waddle in from Alabama, who he has that rapport with. It almost felt like they did that in part because of that reason. So it just seems really, really weird to me. Like it seems like Miami could be one of those teams that would be in a position where they don't need to do that. But maybe it's just like a hey, this is Deshaun Watson we're talking about, and maybe they just checked on the price just to see, what do you guys want for him exactly? I don't know.
It's
But all these
definite.
other teams have been interested, and then they backed out because of the asking price, I presume.
The asking price is way too high for his current situation, for sure. Um, Tua has looked better this year. I think. I mean, like Deshaun Watson is still an upgrade, and he's still young. I don't know that we say the same thing in a couple years. Maybe Tua, catches up. We don't know what the future might hold, but
Yeah.
interesting for me because it's kind of a. I can't think of what you would call it. It's kind of like a. It's. I can't think of the phrase that I'm trying to use, but it's oxymoron. That's what I'm looking for. Deshaun Watson, Miami being interested in Deshaun Watson to me is an oxymoron because pursuing someone like Deshaun Watson for Miami would make sense to me in the fact that they should be trying to win now. That defense looks good. Xavier Howard demanded a trade this offseason, and they fixed that.
Saw that.
He's
Yeah.
staying.
Yeah, they did.
But like they're to me as a GM
Yeah,
or an
I,
owner,
I
I'd
agree
be
with
having some concerns with how long I can keep this group together because of things like that. So it's like, okay, well, going and getting Deshaun if you knew he was going to play this entire season and or next season, like makes a lot of sense. He's 25. So if you don't think he's playing this year or next year, There's also you would could have him for a very long time once the dust settles on these allegations, and that also makes sense to me, but not for Miami. If Watson could miss time, a decent amount of time, that isn't something Miami should be signing up for. Do
Yeah,
you?
they do feel like a team that has a lot of expectation. Not maybe not a lot, but they've got some expectation this year because of the way that defense looked last year and the amount of offensive weapons they have with Tua in his second year now. I agree with you. They feel like a team that like for them to have a losing season would feel very disappointing. You know, like they certainly have expectation to win.
Yeah, I mean they were right around. I want to say they were right around 500 last year. They added Waddle. They added Fuller in free agency. Um, kind of adds a little another element to the Watson thing if Fuller's there. Kind of
Well,
interesting.
supposedly that's why Watson had interest in Miami because I guess he has a no trade clause.
Oh, so he's like, well, I could hook back up with my boy,
Right.
stay in the warm weather. Do you think
I'm gonna come across as a bit of a bitch.
if you signed Deshaun Watson at 25 years
Hmm.
old, Tua's done so. So do you think that the asking price, because I think it was like two firsts and a couple seconds or something, Houston was getting crazy. Do you think if Miami floats Tua back to the Texans, like the price comes down quite a bit? Do you think maybe it's like
And
Tua and a first?
in my mind, I maybe this is me thinking crazy, but if that was a legitimate, real conversation between those teams, in my mind, that's what made sense. I mean, why would you bring Watson in at his age? Like you're committing to him long term, especially when you're giving up that much. Why would you do that and then have Tua on your roster? That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
So to me, I thought it would be a quarterback swap with some picks.
Which, if
But
I
we
were
don't know
Houston,
what Texas thinks of Tua. Maybe Houston's looking at Tua like, nah, fam, we're good. Like I don't know.
they
You know,
could
maybe they don't
be.
want him.
I think if I'm the Texans after all the Bill O'Brien stuff, like I would be interested in initiating a new legacy. But if Tua's not the guy you want to do that with, that's fair. I mean, I would
Right.
have more interest in like a new young quarterback in a rebuild,
Well,
really.
it's all about these teams' personal evaluations and and the system they like to run at the end of the day, right? Like all that matters to them is their own opinion of a player. So they could look at a Tua and not be sold on him, and then because of that, not have interest. You know, it could be as simple as that. But I think if you're on Miami side and you actually wanted to pursue Deshaun, I think you're 100% offering up your quarterback.
Yeah,
You know,
agreed. You have to.
I think so.
Cam,
Yes.
you have been very keen on the Dolphins' skill players from top to bottom. I've at separate times heard you touch on almost all of them. What do you think happens with Miami's offense as is? What do you think? How do you think that might be affected if they were to add Deshaun Watson? I mean, like, what are you doing with Miami's team, fantasy wise or otherwise? Just, I guess, what's your general take on how Miami might be affected with Deshaun Watson, or maybe if they end up with riding along with Tua? Like, what's your expectation?
Um, I think if you add Watson, that elevates every part of your game. That elevates your team wins. That elevates your fantasy value. He's just way more of a playmaker. I think Tua is the exact wannabe of a Watson. Um, I think that Miles Gaskin even. I like Gaskin. I don't think he's the greatest running back. I think he's getting not the appreciation that he should get. Um, but I think that even if Watson did go there, that elevates Gaskin too. I mean, look at what Watson did with Houston. I mean, and look what Houston's doing without Watson right now. I mean, they went from a playoff contending team to possibly the worst team in the league, like you said. So I think that if Miami does get him, I mean that's nothing but good news for all of them.
Who do you
But
think is the biggest beneficiary?
biggest,
Yeah, who goes?
Oof.
Who are you bumping up the most if Deshaun
Will
Watson?
Fuller.
I was I was thinking Will Fuller, but I don't know. I think honestly, I think either Waddle or Gesicki. I think Gesicki is that much better if Watson gets there because he does. I mean, Gesicki is basically like their wannabe like Darren Waller. Like he does it all a little bit, but he can line up outside a little bit more and still run routes. Um, but I think Waddle being the little speedster, if they run him in like the slot area, especially, run it underneath and stuff like that, I think that Watson can create plays to where he'll spread the defense out a little bit more and get more open. I mean,
Waddle
what is
could be
what?
nasty with Deshaun Watson because
Yeah,
remember, like Kiki Kuti, he was primarily a
hmm
slot guy, right, in Houston,
Yeah.
he wasn't known for
and
anything, and Watson just made him a name.
yeah, and he targeted him enough that he made him relevant in the
Yeah,
slot primarily. And
100%.
you got Waddle speed with, like you said, like with Watson's ability to be mobile and extend plays.
Yeah, so
Oof.
I think Waddle overall would be the best benefit if Watson came there would be Waddle.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that. I like the Fuller pick too. We have all been aware that Fuller is suspended, but I don't know that we've touched on how long. So I pulled Will Fuller's
Just a game.
profile up here. Yeah, he's supposed to be ready week 2.
Yeah.
So that he could have a bigger impact than I think I've been counting on. I think if Deshaun Watson's there, I'm bumping up Will Fuller quite a bit. I think Waddle would be my most intriguing option with Tua for the reunion. It might just be more of like a Hollywood kind of a thing for me, but like I think that there could be some chemistry that helps him. But I think they could both really benefit from Deshaun Watson. In case anyone forgot, I'm just this his stat line happens to be here too. Before Will Fuller missed time last year, he played 11 games. 5 of those he went for over 100 yards and he had 8 touchdowns. We had previously seen him as like a deep threat, and he was very good at that. And then last year he like flipped a switch, kind of like Robbie Anderson. I give Robbie Anderson all the credit in the world for doing it, but Will Fuller did the same thing. He completed his route tree. He was running underneath. He was taking a lot of contact on shorter yard routes, and his volume went up, his consistency went up, and he was a very good receiver. I think missing some time makes it kind of hard to remember, but like he was pretty solid. I
He
don't
was
know if he'll be
really,
good without PEDs,
I
but
was going to say, I mean, the juice helps. We'll see how long he can stay on the field. Um, unless him and his doctor found a new concoction,
yeah, the next new one.
which is very possible. But he was doing so good last year that Brandon Cook's season was just being completely ignored, and he was having a really rock solid season too. And it was because of Will Fuller. Like Will Fuller was crushing it.
Clear, he seemed to be like a clear number one, like not just for that team, but like he just looked like a guy.
Mm-hmm.
It was
Yeah.
interesting.